Hello everyone, Jess with Emotional Fire Academy. Today to shatter some myths. 3 popular myths about highly sensitive people we are going to totally bust open. Now subscribe to my channel if you are a highly sensitive person and you are excited about tips, tools, and tricks to up-level your sensitivity. Because I am an emotion coach, I am your driver operator on this journey, and I help highly sensitive people do exactly that in life, as I have done it for myself, learned from experience and trial and error. And I'm also a former firefighter, so I am going to guide you through this today, and we're going to bust some myths. We're going to get a little bit technical, maybe a little controversial. That's okay. I'm ready for it. Hope you are too. So I did do my research from an article referenced in 2019 in Psychology Today about several studies that were conducted about the brains of highly sensitive people and how they are different. So if you want to check that article out and nerd out on some really hardcore science, some really dense articles, I'll put the link in the description box below. So the first myth I want to bust is that highly sensitive people are weak. Oh gosh, this is so judgmental. It's so painful. So they're weak. So let's bust this myth wide open, shall we? All right, so I think when people say highly sensitive people are weak, what they mean is they're insecure, right? I think insecurity is judged as weak. But I made a video a few weeks back about the types of sensitivity, because there's actually huge differences in sensitivity. Check out the video, I'll put the link above. It's called Why Am I So Sensitive and Cry So Easily Over Everything? And it kind of describes that there's 3 types of sensitivity. There is suggestibility, so believing everything that you tell yourself and that other people tell you through language. Insecurity, which is having a wound, right? Insecurity is essentially a wound that happened through past conditioning, an event that happened to you that you now kind of repeat on autopilot, like you're triggered by anything that smells, sounds, looks, tastes, feels like that old wound. So that's what being insecure is. So you trigger easily, and people are confused as to your emotional reaction because it doesn't match what the situation is, right? So that's what being insecure is. True HSPness is the 3rd type of sensitivity that's more related to your physiology, your actual genetic differences in perceiving and being aware of more data, more sensory information. So these 3, I think when people say HSPs are weak, they're confusing the body stuff with the insecurity. Now let's bust this myth. So not all highly sensitive people are insecure. Many, if not all, of the people who aren't highly sensitive are insecure. I mean, have you ever met someone on earth who is 100% confident and 100% healed and doesn't have any wounds or triggers? I've never met this person. I mean, some people get pretty close, but you know, insecurity isn't something that is exclusive to highly sensitive people. And I think when people say that, they're confusing that it's actually different. And so it's not weakness so much as ignorance on the behalf of the person that is assuming that is true, that highly sensitive people are weak, because there's actually a difference. And it's not to say that, you know, a lot of people in general are insecure about things, and that's okay. So if everybody is insecure about something, then we're all weak, right? So to point a finger just at HSPs is really not correct to just say that, oh, those people are weak. That's a very blanket general overgeneralization. Because highly sensitive people from a physiological standpoint actually have superpowers, essentially. And this is not to make, again, value judgments against people who aren't HSP. I just want to clarify that. But would you describe someone who is weak as someone who has a really great awareness of what's going on? I wouldn't. I would say that person isn't weak at all, that they're actually pretty strong. That is actually the case with highly sensitive people. In one of the fMRI studies that they did, they scanned the brains of highly sensitive people. They showed them pictures of strangers and people close to them in different moods, in different mood states. And then they looked at what their brain was doing and where certain parts of the brain were activating. And they found that the cingulate area and the insula, now these two parts are highly involved in awareness. So your actual awareness in the moment of what is going on around you. Highly sensitive people were more active when they were shown images of people close to them and of positive stimuli. So that goes to show that highly sensitive people are actually more aware of what is happening around them, also based on mirror neurons, which I'll explain in a second, than the other 80% who are non-HSP. So that isn't weakness at all. That's actually kind of a superpower. So they're super tuned into people around them and how they're feeling, and then stuff that's really fun and amazing and awesome. So positive stimuli. We're going to return to the positive stimuli as well. So they're more conscious, essentially. As HSPs, we're more conscious in a social context. We kind of are more in the know. That's not weakness at all. That's like amazing. That's magic. It's superpower to me. That goes along hand in hand also with greater activity in mirror neurons, which has also been scientifically validated in highly sensitive people. So the mirror neurons are neurons in the brain that allow us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. So we can actually, they're more active in highly sensitive people. So they fire at greater rates. Obviously there's more electrical activity. So there is a greater ability to be empathic, to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes. Again, that's not weakness. That's like almost extrasensory perception. That's being able to be aware of not only yourself, but of somebody else and what's going on. And so, these are actually skills and abilities that are kind of incredible, not weakness at all. And then the behavioral reaction to that information, I think, is what people are perceiving as weakness, because maybe it looks like it's insecurity or it's overreaction, but really it's strength. And, no one teaches us how to respond to that info, right? We have to kind of learn on our own. So I'm saying that myth is totally busted, that we're weak. Highly sensitive people are not weak. Not weak at all. All right, so let's bust myth number 2, that we're too emotional. All right, so maybe the other 80% aren't emotional enough, because emotion is the currency of life. Emotion is how we store memory, right? We remember the most emotionally charged moments. That's what we put in our memory bank. We pay attention to things that are highly emotionally charged. The media knows this. That's why they're spinning all this emotion into and aggrandizing stories, exaggerating to get that, to squeeze that emotion out of it and make it look bigger and scarier and more fearful than it is. So maybe the rest of the population isn't emotional enough. Maybe the opposite is true. They found, so the area of the brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex, this is a particular part of the prefrontal cortex. So the part of your brain, obviously part of the neocortex, it's involved in emotions, values, processing sensory data. It's one of the more recent additions to our noggins, our brain. This section of our brain, there is actually, that's the part that when we introduce emotion into it, right, we're judging our values against something, we're taking in the sensory information and filtering it through the lens of our emotion. So this is all about emotional processing, especially in having to do with social cues and then acting from a higher state of mind in this area. So they found that highly sensitive people had gene activation of a particular gene that actually increases emotional vividness. and that this allows greater emotional enhancement to happen in the VMPFC. So essentially, the emotions of highly sensitive people are cranked up. Like, this is a measured event in their brains, in brains of highly sensitive people. It is juiced up. So it's like high definition television versus regular television. So a regular person experiences, a vacillation of emotion up and down. But then, HSPs have this like wild vacillation, right? Because it's super vivid. This is a genetic basis to this. This is a gene that does this. It is flipped on. You're highly sensitive. You're having this huge emotional experience. Wow, it's so intense, right? You're drawn in because it's so intense. It's so cranked up. And so it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. Like, these are two different scales, right? If that gene is not activated, you're just having a different experience. The intensity isn't as much. And so to say they're too emotional is to try and compare things that are totally different, and the thing that is getting overlooked is that, when you have these high highs, that is amazing. That's the part of being an HSP that's like, wow, this is mind-blowingly awesome. I'm having this vivid, positive experience that unfortunately regular people are kind of missing out on unless they, take mind-enhancing drugs or, do things to really juice up, their body chemicals, their neurochemicals. We're getting that naturally just through the course of a day. And, that was also, they noticed that people, the HSPs, really oriented towards positive stimuli. So we as HSPs really like move towards that feeling. We're like, oh, it's so good. When it's good, it's really good. It's really good. But to say that, it's kind of a bummer because most regular people miss out on the high highs, but they also, so it's like too emotional isn't even, again, this is a value judgment. Maybe this isn't emotional enough. Again, they can't really be compared. So that HSPs are too emotional, again, we're not true. Not true. It's not even comparable. The experience is measurably different in terms of brain activity. So let's move on to number 3, that HSPs get overstimulated easily. So, this is thought to be, the overstimulation is thought to be one of the hallmarks of being a highly sensitive person. That you get overstimulated, you get fried real easy, and you have to withdraw. You have to recharge, you have to spend time in a dark room. I don't think that is the case. I think this comes back to the strong brain activation in response to positive stimuli. And the article mentions this article on the fMRIs where they showed people pictures of strangers and people that were close to them in different moods, that highly sensitive people were particularly susceptible to positive environments. I love the wording on this. Susceptible. They were susceptible to positive environments and positive stimuli. So we really are attracted towards, like, we don't get overstimulated by positivity, right? I've never thought of a time where I'm like, this is too good, I have to remove myself. Like, this is too amazing. I can't take anymore. I have to go sit in a dark room. It's more of like we move away from things that are really too much, right? When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's really bad. So there's a strong pull to positive things and a lower tolerance for crap. And they found this in this behavioral consequence in the study is that when things suck, they really suck. And that's why HSPs, so I'm reading this verbatim from the study, HSPs tend to be reducing their reactions to negative emotional information that isn't salient, so isn't important, consistent with behavioral evidence of highly sensitive people reporting that they avoid negative overstimulation. So sirens, horror movies, feeling like you have too much to do, So if it's not socially relevant to you, if it doesn't have to do with, if it's just like noise or the scratch of an itchy sweater, we just have a lower tolerance for crap. So it's not that I think it's that, I want to clear this up, that we're overstimulated. It's just that we just hate being around things that are crappy because they feel like this end of the spectrum, right? They feel like the bottom of the barrel there. And so we're like, not doing that. I'd rather go sit in a dark room than listen to a siren wail or a baby cry or whatever annoys the crap out of us. And because this also has to do with the dopamine system. So the genes are activated differently in highly sensitive people for the dopamine processing in the brain. Dopamine being the neurotransmitter for rewards. Like when we look forward to a reward, when we're anticipating a reward, like, ooh, that feel-good chemical of like, oh, I got a hit of dopamine. This feels great. Yeah, I want to do it again. So some of the imaging of the highly sensitive brains showed stronger activations in response to positive social stimuli, including the ventral tegmental area, which is a dopamine-rich area well known for its involvement in reward processing. So positive stuff for highly sensitive people really gets us off neurochemically. So that's why we move towards it. That's why we always want it. And that's why we're so intolerant of being down here in these lower dips. It's just like intolerable. It stinks. So I think that's more of it's not that you get overstimulated, because I never want to come down from these highs. I want to stay there forever. It's that we just hate the lows. We just really, our brain, our neurochemicals, our behavior, then we just move away from the lows really fast, as fast as possible. Like to the point where we just can't, I'm just not going to tolerate this job, this person, I just can't. That's kind of always the response. Like, I can't do that. And so it's not really overstimulation. Like I said, I think it's different. I think you can kind of claim it as moving towards what you like and away from what you don't. So let me know what you thought. Comment below, and if you are someone if you believe any of these things about yourself as a highly sensitive person, let's bust those myths. Let me help you break open your limitations as a highly sensitive person, because you are infinite potential. You can be anything, and with the powers that you already have, your genetic predispositions of greater awareness, greater empathy and compassion, greater ability to respond to social cues. All of these are really amazing skills and abilities that can be enhanced and make your life even better. So you can start riding those waves, those higher waves. And I would love to help you do that. Check out my website, emotionalfireacademy.com, for my 3-month program, Flammable to Fireproof, where we will literally reprogram all of these misconceptions that you have about yourself and get you some new, stronger, more empowered beliefs, conditionings, and routines. So my name is Jess. Thanks for watching. Talk to everybody later.